Hi students, today we are discussing the essential package for early childhood development presented to you by EDU-BUILD Institute. As an ECD practitioner, you will need to be able to select appropriate learning resources to match the activities as well as the needs of the children in class. And there are so many resources available that it may sometimes be difficult to choose what you really need and what is appropriate. So let us have a look at the criteria you should use when choosing and buying resources. We'll first have a look at the key elements. There are five key foundation stones on which every learning activity rests, and thus which determine the resources chosen in an ECD classroom. What are the books? What are the toys? What are the props that you will require to make your lesson come alive, to help your children learn as much as possible, as effectively, efficiently, and as fun as possible? They should encourage the children to learn while they are playing. That is how children learn. While they are playing, because they learn their boundaries, they learn what is good physically, what is safe for them, and what is not. They learn how to play with other children, so they start to understand group work. They start to learn about textures. They start to learn about the sensory world. There is so much that they learn through playing. They start to develop their imaginations. They see what works imaginatively and what does not, what is practical and what is not. So, playing is the key aspect to children learning. The variety of resources should cater for all developmental areas. That does not mean that one toy will cater for all developmental areas, but that an array of resources, a group of resources will come together, teach them about that physical domain, teach them about their cognitive domain, their imaginative domain that we learned about in the previous session. They should facilitate integrated development where possible by addressing more than one developmental area. For example, when toddlers or babies have their little electronic remotes that make little noises, some of those toys have buttons on them, number buttons. So from it goes 1 to 9 and then 0. And so when they press it and they press the number one, it sounds and it says one and it counts with them. Two, three, as they press each number, it then the toy will then say the number out loud for them. That also allows them to listen to music. So if they press certain buttons, it allows them to listen to music. And so this addresses more than one developmental area. They should be developmentally appropriate. There is no use telling a toddler who is 3 years old, perhaps, to go and read a master's thesis of someone in college to be stimulated. That is not going to help the child one bit. So while it might be stimulating for an adult, for someone who has got a degree or 2 degrees behind his or her name, it's not going to help a child of 3 years old. So you need to say, what is it that a child of 3 years old may need? Also, if you give them a dummy to play with or something that an infant requires, this is also not developmentally appropriate because you are not allowing them to be pushed in development. I mention this often and I will be mentioning it again at a later stage. In language learning, for example, when you are learning a foreign language, you start at your home language. That is your base, your home language. You then move towards the foreign language, which is your target. So you've got different targets: target 1, target 2, and so on. If you allow someone to learn slightly beyond their target, it pushes their development a little bit. But if you take them a little further beyond that target, it might discourage learning because it is too difficult for them and they start to feel discouraged because they are not achieving milestones or they are not learning as well and they are just not getting it right because it is too far beyond the developmental stage. If you go backwards, and you only keep them and you keep them below their target, far below their target, they also get bored because they are not learning. So when we speak about something developmentally appropriate, you need to get a child to a point where they are stimulated but not overly stimulated and not understimulated. They should encourage emergent literacy, numeracy, and life skills. What is to come? That is emergent. What is to emerge? Their literacy, their reading, their comprehension, their understanding of text, their understanding of not just text but the spoken word, their numeracy, how they're able to count, problem solve, and so on using numbers, their life skills, like we mentioned previously when we used Eric the Hermit Crab. We spoke about how they use these stories to pick up life skills. So these tools that you provide them, don't see them as toys, see them as tools. What are the tools you are giving a child to help their development? Now let us have a look at the types of resources. In the ECD classroom, we use many different types of learning resources. The different kinds of resources are used to develop different skills, to engage the interests of the children in the learning program, try to make them interested, try to involve them. So use those resources to involve them in their learning. Appropriate resource selection is of the utmost importance because it improves efficiency and learning outcomes in the classroom. Instead of just learning on paper, you learn to do things practically, even in this course that you are doing. You're not just going to be listening to my boring voice all year long. You are going to be involved in activities where you are going to use this theory to do practical work. A learning resource is anything that is used to facilitate the learning process, such as toys, books, the practitioner. So you are also a learning resource, technology that is appropriate, and so on. You get different resource categories. So you've got natural resource categories, the inclusion of natural resources, going outside. You want to encourage the child to develop a respect for and love of nature. So, for this reason, we may include many different kinds of natural learning resources in the ECD classroom. For example, leaves for nature collages, seed pods and shells for sorting, or beans, for example, to also sort, to also count. Also note that when you use things like beans, it cannot be a hazard to the child's safety. So the child must be of age that he or she is able to use beans, that they will not just put it in their mouths and choke on it. And other plants, for example, that are grown from seeds in the classroom. So you can actually put a little pot, a little flower pot, and put a seed in it for each child and say, okay, your job, if the child is of age, is to nurture the seed so the seed can grow. Or let us have a classroom plant. And every day, one child will water the plant so we can learn to take care of that resource. Pets and animals may be kept at the school. Please don't keep animals that will be traumatized by the child or that will traumatize the child. A little fish in the classroom is more than enough. For example, natural resources are almost freely available. They do not cost a lot of money. And as an ECD practitioner, you can collect items or you can encourage children to collect leaves without harming the environment or other interesting items when they are out and about. I remember when I was in grade one, my teacher, Mrs. Hanekom, lovely lady, she picked up a helicopter leaf and she brought it to the classroom and she tossed it up in the air and it propelled all the way down to the ground and we were just completely amused and amazed by this helicopter leaf. So every time I would walk home from school, with the lady who would pick us up, myself and my cousin, we would walk home and we would look for these helicopter leaves. Or she would tell us about acorns when the squirrels would eat them, and she'd show us pictures of it. And so when we'd walk around, we would try to find them and pick them up. And this too was a learning experience because you are so completely amazed by the natural environment that you get involved in it. So you can pick it up from the ground and you look for it and you say, wow, this is what it actually looks like. Wow, I have one. So now with my little girl, who is 3 years old, we look around and she's always out and about, picking up leaves, picking up stones, saying, I've got a gift for you. And for them it is something, it is a sense of them sharing some sort of, not compassion with you, affection. They're sharing affection with you by picking up this stone and sharing it with you. But in that way, they're also learning about it. They're learning about the weight of it. They're learning about where in nature it can be found. They're learning about what is dangerous and what is not. You also have improvised learning resources. So, learning resources can be improvised to create or fulfill a particular purpose. You can use your imagination to create a situation with your resources at hand. You can say, what do I have right now that I can use to help this child learn? And so you improvise. The children, for example, colored blocks from the play block area can be used to sort into different colored boxes to teach colors. You can put a box together. You can draw a red circle and cut it out, and around it you've got a red ring. You can cut out a circle and around it have a blue ring, and you can have a cut out another circle and around it you can have a green ring, and you can say now sort each blocks according to the rings around it, and the children must put that colorful block in that little hole according to each color. You can also have a look at scrap resources. Use scrap materials to conserve resources, putting scrap paper together to make paper mache, or someone's printed and made a mistake on the side that they've printed, so you turn it over and you use it for drawing sheet. So you can also involve families by requesting them to help you gather empty boxes of breakfast cereal, plastic tomato sauce bottles, empty peanut butter jars, plastic peanut butter jars. So you can use these scraps to create a corner inside or outside that could serve as a make-believe shop, for example. People, we are human resources. Human effort and skills imparts value to any project. So you can, for example, if you have career day, you can ask police officers to come to explain what they do, and firefighters and other teachers and artists and doctors. This is human effort, human resources coming together. Commercial, those are things that you purchase, those are your bought resources. The ECD Playroom also includes learning resources that may need to be bought. Examples: a jigsaw puzzle or picture books or board games and so on. You can have cash registers, you can have cameras, things they can play with. I'm not talking about thousands of rands or dollars or euros or pounds worth of materials and resources. But you can use these commercial resources to create imaginative space in your classroom. Now let us have a look at the selection criteria when buying resources. Safety. Are they safe? Will the child be able to break it and hurt himself on it? Maybe cut his fingers on it? If so, don't purchase it. Is it toxic? You can get non-toxic paints for the classroom, because even toddlers put that paintbrush in their mouths and they want to taste. Is it small little objects that a baby can choke on? If so, set it aside. There are many safe resources you can purchase instead. Is the equipment appropriate, age appropriate? Does it suit the class? Does it suit the child's need? Is it appropriate for the stage of development? Are they skill specific? So is it that this does it address a specific skill that the children need to develop? Children should be learning self-help skills such as dressing or tying their laces. Can this particular tool assist them with those motor skills? My apologies, I went over age suitable. Did I go over? Yes, I did. So the children in class should be able to use it comfortably for their age. Chairs and tables at the right size, at the right height. Um, Developmental toys that are age appropriate as well. We need to make sure you look into that. Then, are they free from stereotyping? We are in such a diverse society, so you need to ensure that they are free from stereotyping, racial biases, cultural biases. You need to make sure that we avoid these things so that we allow children to see the diversity around them and teach them to respect that children are different, that adults are different, that they will encounter different cultures, religions, races, and so on. Do the resources provide an activity balance? So, balance between more active and more passive activities. Sometimes, you don't want the children to be running around jumping all day. Sometimes they need downtime where they're sitting at their table, where they are working together in a quiet environment. And sometimes you do need them to jump, to skip, to hop. So, you need an activity balance. Are they interactive? Toys should encourage active participation. As we know, that is the only way that children learn, by participating. Battery operated toys are generally not suitable, and they are, but there are exceptions. There are exceptions. So you can ask yourself if the play in the toy, or you can ask yourself if this particular toy is interactive and safe, if they are an exception to the battery operated rule, and so on. Are they going to allow the child to have a practical experience about what they're learning about as well? Are they easily maintained? Because that is important. Are they easily maintained, or are they just going to break? Are they just going to get dirty? Are they just going to peel? Because they'll become unattractive, not just to the children, but to the parents as well. And children will try to avoid those kinds of toys. You will also find yourself in a pickle having to replace them constantly. It becomes completely expensive if they are not easily maintained. Is it attractive? Children gravitate towards brightly colored items, attractive items. Even us as adults, we are attracted to beauty, we are attracted to color, and so on. So you need to ensure that children too are attracted to these toys. Do they cater for group interests? So, will the children enjoy using it? Will it be for one child only? Will only one child be interested? Or are you able to attract the interest of a group of children? Multiple children will be able to play with it. Is it familiar or unfamiliar? So, children like to feel secure and use resources that they know well, but they also need to be challenged to learn further skills by handling resources that are not familiar. Are they classic? Resources that have stood the test of time include building blocks, dolls, Legos, and so on. They are not just the latest trend. They are something that children find interesting and exciting and stimulating over the years. Whether it's from your parents' years to our years, there are toys that children have continuously found stimulating. And so buying these resources, you know that they will stand the test of time and that over time they will still be able to be used. Are they economical? Sometimes it's good to buy an expensive toy, but you need to ensure that it is stronger and that it will last. And if you purchase a toy, sometimes you also know that this child will only play with this toy for 3 weeks. Is it cheap enough that you can ensure that you can purchase it again at a later stage? Is it locally available so that you don't need to wait or import it? Or if a part breaks, you don't need to order it and wait for it to come. Adaptable, and sometimes not being locally available is also not a train smash. Sometimes it's good to import. Is it adaptable? Something that they are able to change to accommodate a particular need. Is it adaptable for children with special needs as well? So are children with special needs also able to use it? And is there anything similar? So are you buying it because it looks good or because you need it? So do you already have anything similar in your classroom that you can use? That is all for today. If you have any questions or queries, please feel free to reach out.